Welcome to the Traveller's Cyber Academy, a video series on cybersecurity and cyber risk management. We designed it to inform brokers on emerging cyber trends, risks and threat prevention techniques, and also to excite them about the possibilities. Our topic for today: after a breach. Who to call, what to do. In today's business environment, companies must be prepared to respond to cyber incidents and prevent them, if possible, from becoming full-scale data breaches. In this session of the Traveller's Cyber Academy, we'll focus on what happens after an incident, who companies should call, and what companies should do. During the session, we'll hear from three experienced breach coaches: attorneys Ed Finn and Jennifer Coughlin of Mullen Coughlin, and attorney Dominic Paluzzi from McDonald Hopkins. Ed will feature in a simulated breach call involving a fictitious furniture store to show what companies should do following a cyber incident. Dom and Jennifer will share their expertise in helping companies handle cyber incidents and data breaches, and will explain when companies may need to engage outside professionals such as digital forensic investigators. They will also cover the legal consequences of a data breach, such as notifying those affected and the important steps businesses can take to prevent a cyber incident turning into a data breach. In an age that produces more data than ever before, interconnectivity and data sharing between companies and individuals has exploded. The data that businesses hold takes many forms. For example, employee files may contain personally identifiable information as well as sensitive medical and health information. A business may also have a contractual obligation to protect the credit card information it holds, maintains, stores or processes for its clients and customers. Failure to do so can lead to third-party claims from the people and companies it does business with. If such information is compromised, the company could be subject to legal and regulatory investigations, possibly leading to fines and penalties. No business can afford not to care about data breaches. According to the 2017 Ponemon Institute study for the UK, the average cost of a data breach per record is £98, while the average total cost to each company now stands at £2.5 million. This included costs related to business disruption, revenue loss, equipment damage, legal fees, public relations expenses, and forensic analysis. Handling a cyber incident or data breach can be daunting and expensive. The response effort can require legal assistance to coordinate the investigation, to determine what laws apply, and develop notification materials that comply with those laws. Forensics expertise to determine the source and scope of the breach and identify the persons whose information was accessed. Credit monitoring and/or identity theft monitoring for victims of a breach. Notifications, as required by law, which can include mailings and call centre services to notify victims of the breach. Public relations, to minimise negative publicity, loss of goodwill and damage to the reputation of a business. And regulatory concerns, to manage potential governmental claims or investigations that could follow. So, what should a business do when a potential cyber incident occurs? As a business insured by Travellers, you needn't wait until a claim is filed to begin working with a claims specialist. If you have a question or think a cyber incident may have occurred, contact us. We'll walk you through the situation and determine if a claim needs to be filed and what resources are required to address your situation. An initial complimentary 30-minute consultation with a data breach coach is provided for each cyber event, giving you access to the relevant expertise and knowledge to help mitigate against potential losses. A breach coach is a data security, data privacy lawyer who specialises in responding to data breaches and events. They play an essential role in helping your business respond to a cyber incident. They lead the investigation and determine what, if any, legal obligations your business may have as a result of the event. There will need to be a three-way discussion between you, your breach coach, and a traveller's claims specialist. This session will determine if computer forensics professionals will be required in order to set your business on the path to recovery. Travellers has specialist partners in areas such as IT forensics, public relations, and denial of service attack response to provide a complete and thorough incident response, when needed. This network of vendors will provide discounted rates to insureds that can greatly reduce the overall cost of an investigation. Throughout the process, you'll have direct and regular contact with your claims specialist and your breach coach to keep you informed about the investigation of the incident and the progress of your claim. By working closely with you and your breach coach, we'll help you respond effectively to the incident and get your business back on track. Let's find out how this would work by listening to a simulated breach call. In this situation, we are introduced to a fictitious US company called Astonishing Furniture. Headquartered in Tampa, Florida, it designs, markets and sells high-end modern furniture and textiles to customers around the country. It begins when Kevin, the CEO, calls to report the incident. Then, a traveller's claims specialist calls him back.
Good morning, Astonishing Furniture. This is Kevin.
Hi, Kevin. Linda from Travelers. I understand that you had an incident happen. Could you tell me a little bit about what occurred?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for getting back to me this quickly. We had a problem this morning with our IT department. They were installing software or upgrading software, but in any event, they wound up with one of those viruses that locked up my whole system, and now basically my operations are shut down until I pay something called Bitcoin, and quite frankly, I'm not sure what that is.
Well, I'm so sorry that you're having to deal with this. Your cyber policy provides you with a free consultation with the breach coach, which is a data privacy lawyer that handles these types of situations. Let's see if we can get him on the line so we can figure out the next steps from here. How does that sound?
That sounds fantastic.
Great. Ed, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good morning, Linda.
We have Kevin on the line, and he had an incident that came up.
Hi, good morning, Kevin. My name is Edward Finn. I'm with the law firm of Mullen Coughlin. We are one of the breach coaches for Travelers Insureds. Our job is to parachute in under your policy and quarterback your response to this incident. Now, if you want to tell me a little bit about this incident, I'll be in a position where I can recommend some next steps.
Well, that sounds great. I can't give you too many details other than my IT department told me this morning that while they were doing a software installation or a software upgrade, we wound up with a virus that has essentially locked down my whole system. So I have no access to any files, including my employee files, my customer files. I've got design plans and specifications out there, and it's all locked up. I can't get to it until I pay something that they're telling me is 30 of these Bitcoin. And at this point in time, my biggest concern is I can't do my business, and I don't know how to go about getting this thing unlocked and getting a Bitcoin.
As far as the files you have, employee files, design files, do those contain sensitive information like social security numbers, credit card information, anything like that?
They would. I would have all kinds of personal information about my employees, obviously, but on the customer side, we do a lot of online business, and so we do take credit cards and information like that about our customers that are all stored on our network somewhere.
Okay. So based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like you're dealing with a ransomware incident, which is unfortunate, and many companies have been hit with this over the past year. What we would do is recommend you bring in a Travelers approved forensic investigator. We would engage them on your behalf to ensure that the investigation is privileged. They can help you restore your files. They can help you purchase the decryptor key with Bitcoin if necessary, and they will be able to tell us whether any sensitive information was affected so that we can give you some legal advice. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds great if they can come in and get me back working.
And certainly, Kevin, we would work with you along the process in order to make sure that we're in compliance with your policy.
And I guess if I have any questions about this, Linda, am I coming to you on that?
Both Ed and I will be in contact with you throughout the entire process.
Okay. If you guys can get this taken care of, I can have anybody available this afternoon to have another call with one of those forensic guys that you talked about.
Great. That sounds good. We will reach out to them right now to set up a call, and I'll send you over our contact information and our engagement letter.
Perfect. Thank you both for jumping on this so quickly.
We'll be in touch shortly.
Thanks, everyone.
Within hours, a forensic firm was retained to conduct the investigation. The investigation revealed that the ransomware was sophisticated enough not only to encrypt business-critical files, but also exfiltrate personally identifiable information, including payment card details belonging to the customers and employees of Astonishing Furniture. The breach coach recommended that Notifications should be sent out to all affected customers and other individuals, and that a mail centre and call centre should be set up to handle the notification process and any resulting inquiries. All impacted individuals would also be offered 1 year of free credit monitoring. In this situation, based on the net diligence data breach cost calculator, the potential final loss caused by the data breach could have exceeded $2 million. Now, let's hear firsthand from two experienced breach coaches describing how they help businesses respond effectively when a cyber incident occurs.
A breach coach is also an attorney, a privacy attorneys. We focus on helping organizations do very proactive pre-planning, pre-breach response. Most of the time, though, a breach coach is actually focused on incident response. So we will be the first line of communication, often triaging that situation. We get on a call 24/7 with the client. They're finding out, okay, here's what we know. Here's what we don't know. Here we have an incident or we have a breach. And we really help sort of quarterback that whole process as breach coaches.
Breach coach also knows the right vendors that are needed to investigate and respond to an event appropriately. It could be working with law enforcement, working with forensic investigators, public relations, credit monitoring vendors, notice vendors, and call center vendors. A breach coach knows who to call, who can ramp up as soon as possible, and who can provide the best services to an organization that is usually working under a very short timeline to get through an investigation and disclose an event to outside parties.
We have the experience. We see the trends, and of course in this space, it's so important to realize those trends. The latest threats that are out there, oftentimes we'll have lots of organizations and clients come to us with a very similar situation in a week or 2 week time period, so we can quickly identify that, yeah, we've seen that type of ransomware, we've seen this threat, we know the characteristics of it. So with that experience, we're able to sort of leverage that and offer that to our clients that, hey, we know exactly what to do.
An organization should reach out to a breach coach as soon as it believes that it may have been the victim or experienced some sort of data privacy event. It could be somebody sending information to the wrong recipient. It could be the theft of a hard drive, a laptop going missing. It could be a ransomware infection on an organization's systems. It could be a hacker in the system actively exfiltrating data. As soon as an organization feels it may have a data privacy event on its hands, it's best served to call the breach coach right away.
I think it's important that your incident response team is trained to be calling that breach coach pretty quickly. Certainly we want to give notice to carrier and broker respectively, and then we can then bring in the various service providers. So if we need a forensic provider to take a look and figure out if we actually have a data breach, again, the breach coach can engage that forensic provider on behalf of the insured.
When an organization reaches out to a breach coach, it's going to be very early on, so it's not going to have all the information that it may otherwise want to have when it's talking about the incident. But to the extent that they know at that point what happened, what information is at risk, how it happened, and whether the event is ongoing, that would be very helpful. To the extent an organization also has an incident response plan, it would be very helpful for the organization to have that handy when they do get on the phone with the breach coach, so that we can make sure the response plan is accurate, is responsive to the incident, and we can go through the steps outlined in the response plan to investigate the incident. Every event's going to be different. There's no canned breach response that you can utilize for every single incident. But the services are going to be driven by the nature and scope of the data privacy event. If you have an event that impacts the security of information systems or computerized data, we're likely going to rely upon the assistance of third-party forensic investigators. And they would work not to replace the internal IT investigation that's happening, but they would work with the internal IT team to help us determine what happened, whether or not it's still happening, how it happened, and what information is at risk.
We don't want to be using an IT firm, a firm that a client uses to connect their system, handle their day-to-day sort of IT operations. We really want to use firms that focus only on breach response and forensic analysis, because those types of firms that we work with day in, day out, nationally recognized, but they know exactly the type of analysis that needs to be done to be able to provide to the breach coach so that the breach coach can give that appropriate opinion as to whether or not we have notification obligations or not.
We may also utilize the services of a credit or identity monitoring services provider. There are some laws out there that require those services to impacted individuals, but even if there isn't a legal obligation to offer those types of services, people have come to expect those services to be offered. And in matters where you're doing a large disclosure, where you have to mail a lot of letters out and you may receive a lot of inquiries, you're going to want to rely on the services of a vendor that provides a mailing service and a call center service, so that the organization having the incident isn't mailing letters and continuing to run their daily business and then responding to inquiries. They have the ability to reduce the number of inquiries that they're going to have to handle and instead funnel them towards an outside call center. And we provide the scripts to the call center representatives to use in responding to questions so that the messaging regarding the event is consistent and accurate no matter who's giving the message.
Finally, a crisis communication firm that we would be able to utilize and leverage. These aren't PR firms. PR firms get us to the top of that Google hit list. We want to use a crisis communication firm, a firm that is used to data breach response. Not every situation needs a crisis communication firm, but again, based on the high-profile nature of it, perhaps the type of information or the organization type or the actual audience that's going to be getting a letter, that may dictate whether we need a crisis communication firm or not.
Typically, there's 3 phases to an incident response. The first phase is going to be the investigation, the second phase is going to be the actual disclosure, and the third phase is going to be defense. As part of the investigation phase, it starts with the very first call that we have with the organization, where we try and determine what happened, what information is at risk, and what needs to be investigated to put a box around the event. At that point, we'll determine whether or not we need to bring in third-party forensic investigators to help us identify what happened, confirm it's no longer ongoing, determine how it happened, and what steps need to be taken to remediate the issue that caused the event to occur. And with that information, we can then move into the disclosure phase.
That's when we're bringing in the notification and call center vendors. The breach coach is drafting all of the appropriate notifications, the letters that would go to affected individuals, to regulators that may need to be notified, media notices, frequently asked questions. All of that is sort of in that drafting, notification, and response stage. We're then using notification vendor and call center vendor to really execute that phase. After notifications go out, unfortunately, we're not done. We usually get a knock on the door, sometimes physically and literally, or via paper in a data request from a regulator that says, hey, you notified us about a situation, or we found out about your breach. We want a little more information. Sometimes we want a lot more information, and sometimes they do want to come in person and do an audit, speak to folks on the incident response team and other employees within the organization. And so we will help organizations respond to those regulators. And the key there, of course, when you utilize breach coaches that have the day-to-day experience, they're going to be working with these regulators on a very frequent basis. And so be able to leverage that sort of knowledge, experience, working with those regulators. We know exactly the type of information they need, how they want it, and how exactly to present the situation in the best light for the insured.
A company may be facing an obligation to disclose this incident under state law, under federal law, and oftentimes under international law as well. On the state law side, the obligations an organization will have to disclose this event out will be driven by the laws of the states of residence of the individuals whose information may be at risk as a result of the event. So if you have an organization that's based in Connecticut, but you have data relating to people that live throughout the country, you're going to be looking at the laws of all of those states, and not only the law of Connecticut, to help you determine who needs to receive notice of the event, what the notice should or should not say, when the notice should be provided, and whether or not any services or information should be provided to the individual.
After breach notifications go out to impacted individuals, almost half of the states now, of those 47 of the 50 state breach notification laws, those states, about half of them will require that we give notice to their various state attorneys general, Office of Cybersecurity, Office of Consumer Protection, state police offices, either concurrently with the notice to the residents or sometimes a few days before. They want a heads up. The biggest thing with the regulators, we want to have a concise, an organized response, and really drill home as to what we're doing to try and prevent this situation from happening again. We want to always look at our contractual obligations. So one of the first things we say on that initial call, what contracts do you have out there that could be in play, that could have notification provisions in them? So with potential vendors, with various stakeholders, various contracts that you have out there, it's amazing how many of them have a notification provision when there's a potential compromise of data. From the payment card industry data security standards, they're going to be contractually obligated to give notice to merchant service providers, acquiring banks, the card brands. So when card are potentially at issue, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Discover, they're going to have very specific contractual notice obligations.
If an organization doesn't comply with its legal obligations to investigate and report out a data privacy event, it may be facing a loss of business, it may be facing reputational and brand damage, it may be facing inquiries and litigation from individuals and regulators, and it may be facing fines and penalties from organizational bodies. An organization can reduce cyber risk by taking several different steps. They should identify what data they have, where it is stored, who has access to it, whether or not they need to have it in the first place. They should also ensure the data is appropriately secured and test the security of the data on a regular basis.
We want to have the right policies and procedures in place too. And these aren't just policies and procedures that we draft and put on the shelf in a binder and dust off every couple of years. Of course, these are the policies and procedures that the regulators are going to be requesting. So we want to make sure we have them in place, but that we're actually implementing everything we're saying we're doing.
An organization should focus heavily on educating their employees on data security and privacy of their customers, patients, and internal data that they have in their possession and control. An organization should also prepare an incident response plan and identify who within the organization is going to be involved in receiving the notice of a potential data event and undertaking all the steps that are necessary to reach out to their cyber insurance carrier and get in touch with the breach coach and take the appropriate steps to comply with the legal obligations that they have.
When all else fails, we want to make sure that we have proper cyber insurance, both first party and third party. So that first party, we want to make sure that we're going to be covering a breach coach, a forensic provider, notification and call center, crisis communication, and credit monitoring. But then we also want to make sure we have third party coverage. So that client needs to be protected from the regulatory enforcement actions, the single plaintiff and class action litigation as well. So both first party and third party cyber coverage.
As you heard from the breach coaches, there are several ways companies can reduce cyber risks, including an incident response team, data protection, and employee education. In addition, they should always have proper cyber insurance in place. We hope you enjoyed this session of the Travelers Cyber Academy. After the breach, who to call, what to do.